Okay, so everyone, welcome to the Bot Building Basics webinar today, hosted by myself. I'm technical account manager here. My name's Gavin from Leadoo. And basically, I spend a lot of time building the bots and working with clients to optimize them and to make sure that they're getting the most out of them and that they can understand how to use each of the tools and sort of how to get the best out of it, really. Alongside me is Helen, who is our onboarding development manager. So I'll hand over to her now and she can introduce herself and speak a wee bit about what she's going to be doing today.
Yeah, hi everyone. So many of you have met me during the onboarding process. So my role at Leadoo is really to get things up and running with you. So I'm here really to kind of support Gavin today because both of us kind of build bots. So I think we've got some tips that we can certainly share with you. I'll also be manning the chat. So if there is questions that come up during the webinar that you want Gavin to cover, then I can bring those up with him and just make sure that we cover them during the session or respond to you afterwards if we don't have time.
Excellent.
Okay.
Great. So we're going to run through a couple of slides here just as a bit of a background as to why we're suggesting you build them in certain ways and some sort of tips and things to bear in mind whenever you're building. We will share these, of course, afterwards. There's some useful links at the end for additional support and links to other events that will be hosted. We'll be doing monthly webinars around these sort of themes, so different areas of the platform will be covered. You know, how to do live chat, more advanced bot building, analytics, how to understand the insights and things like that. So there'll be much more to come in the coming months. So we can keep an eye on that on the website. And then so today what we're going to be covering is an introduction to the builder itself and the basic functionality we're going to cover today. We will be doing more advanced ones in the future, as I said. So we'll be going through like the common nodes, how you would be using them, when you should use them, and things like that. And then tips on lead capture collection, because as we'll see from the slides that we're going to cover shortly, the sort of best practices to create those sort of conversational lead capture points rather than those big ugly forms that we've seen on lots of websites before. So we'll look at the settings and then some of the tips that we'll go over. So, you know, find and replace, how to copy and paste sections of bots to save yourself time. Because if you're going to be in the builder a lot and using it every day, like myself and Helen do, any way you can shave a few minutes off and speed things up and make yourself a bit more efficient from that, it's going to make it a lot better. So we'll be covering some of those as well. So just before we get started, then a few of the tips and a few of the things that we always try and bear in mind when we're building out these bots is to make them instant and interactive. I mean, it's no surprise that people are doing a lot more research now, especially in the B2B space, in terms of before they go to make a purchase, and they want to sort of self-serve and go through and find out answers to questions that they need, rather than speak to salespeople, you know, early in the process as maybe it was before. So we're trying to make them interactive to people. We want to make it relevant, and we want to signpost them to the right places in the quickest possible way. So trying to think about the audience that would be going to those specific pages and how can we best serve them, and all that sort of underpinned by simplicity. You know, people want answers, they want them fast. We want to be able to deliver that to them in a way that is quick, concise, and makes them feel sort of comfortable with giving over those details, hopefully then becoming a lead and moving further down the funnel. And that sort of helps us tie the whole sort of the UX together whenever they come onto the site, and how they can get from sort of A to B basically in the most effective way. And then, so why are we doing this, and why are we telling you to do it in such sort of conversational ways? Is that they are generally just much more effective than the forums. I've shared quite an ugly one here on purpose. That, you know, we've seen all these forums before on sites, and I'm sure you've came across them before. They've got no visual appeal. They are quite ugly. They're a bit long. You know, they require a lot of commitment from people, and it's very daunting. Whereas we find that if you break it up into sort of a more conversational tone, you can create a sense of urgency, create a better connection with the visitor on the site, and hopefully then they're more compelled to go through that process with you. And also, when we use the conversational style, we're gathering data and insights all the time. So with the form we see on the right, if they decide not to give you any information, you don't get anything at all. Whereas with the conversational aspect, you can see what options they've clicked and, you know, what areas they're interested in, maybe what challenges they're having as business, and things like that. And, you know, maybe a bit about the company. So those are extra sort of bonus bits of data and insights that we can gather through those sort of conversational aspects. So now what we're going to do is into the fun part. We're going to dive into the platform. We'll be going through a bot that's that we've built, showing you the tips and tricks. And as Helen said at the start there, if you have any questions, obviously just ask, and we can pause and give you some examples and go through there. So without further ado, let's dive in. So this is the Inpage bot builder. So we have 4 different types of bots: Inpage, Chatbot, Visual, and CTA. Now, the Inpage, Chatbot, and Visual, the actual canvas itself is exactly the same for all 3. So once you've cracked one, you've cracked them all, really. So we're going to be focusing on the Inpage today, just to go through those, and so everyone can get their feet and see how we go. So whenever you first log in, you'll see that down the left-hand side we have the nodes themselves. So these are basically the individual parts of the conversation. And if I zoom out, you'll get an idea of how that flows. It's basically like a decision tree. You know, if you're new to the platform, or maybe you've been away for a while and maybe you've been prioritizing other things and you've come back, you're just looking for a refresher. You know, whenever you're thinking about the conversations themselves, they're really just decision trees, and we're trying to move people down through the funnel and get them to where they need to go, which is sort of hopefully, you know, committing to becoming a lead or finding the information they want and doing that research on their own. So down the left-hand side, we'll see the different types of nodes. Now, the bot says is great for sort of conversational pieces or dropping in bits of information. Maybe you want to give a bit of paragraph of, you know, in this case we have, you know, use cases for marketeers, and then what we'd do is we'd use the bot says to give a little bit of information about that. So it's great for dropping in those types of things. You know, while we'll sort of build as we go here, so you can see how easy it is. And from here, you can either just drag this from the side onto the canvas itself, and then what that'll do is it'll pop up the editor you can see on the right-hand side, and from there, you know, you can just type what you need to put into the box. You can update the styles by making it bold, italic. You can add a hyperlink to that if you wanted to add them, send them somewhere else. You can add in emojis, and you can add in variables, but we'll look at that sort of further down the line. That's for, you know, post forms whenever they give us their details, so we can say, you know, thanks for that information, Gavin, and then we can ask another question, sort of thing. The next sort of most common one would be, you know, we'll go through these in detail. Some of them are more self-explanatory than others, but the next one would be single choice, and that's sort of like the bread and butter of the bots. It's the main one we would use. We're trying to figure out basically why did they come to the site today? What are they here to achieve? And in this case, you know, the example I'll show is we've created a bot for marketeers whenever they come. What are they trying to achieve from here? So we're adding in, you know, the options. Are they looking for benefits of the platform? Are they looking for use cases? Are they looking for a demo? So what we do in this case is we'll double click on that. I'll just delete this so we can see we are adding in the answers as we want. So it's really just a case of adding in extra ones if we need to, you know, ask a question. Again, you can just add these in, add your text from there. You'll see that this has created a new option for us, and at that point, then we will want to think like, what's the next stage for that person? So we will grab from this little dot here, and as I say, move that into the blank space, and that'll show us the options. So it's just the options that we have on the left, but now we can see it in this screen. So that is a good case for adding in the next node that we'd like to talk about, which is multiple choice. So slightly different than the single choice. The idea behind this one is that we want to be able to give them a chance to tell us a lot of information at once. So good use cases for this that we have with clients would be, you know, what challenges are you facing at the minute? You know, we're struggling with lead generation and brand awareness, for example, or like what sort of product are you interested in hearing more about today? And so there's a good opportunity to find out lots of information at once. And how these are built is similar to the single choice. We add in the question itself. So we would say, like, you know, which products are you interested in? And then from there, we would just fill it out with the answers as we would, you know, A, B, C, and then we would allow them a certain amount to select, you know, between 1 and however many we add in below. That one's pretty self-explanatory. The next one, the drop down. So the main use for it would be, we can see that we've added 4 here. Now, once we get to maybe like 5, 6 options in this, that becomes a bit too much on the screen, and sometimes visitors can find that overwhelming and maybe sort of paralysis by by choice because there's too much there and they're not really sure which one's relevant for them. So we can add in drop downs. So we're really just putting one list in front of them. They can drop down, and it's great if there's lots and lots of options. You know, if you wanted to, select a course or select which product you're interested in, and if you have a wide range of those. So in this case, we can say, which course are you interested in, and then from there, if you have ones already created, it'll let you see those from the drop down, and then you can either click create new, and then we can put in click OK, and that will save that as a new drop down. Now, once that's saved, then you can just add in your options as you would like. And then the benefit of this is we can update that, so it's a cleaner way for us to present that information. We can also add this, and we'll see this when we get into the forms itself. We can add this into the form collection as well. So much like those traditional forms where you would have the drop down about, which service would you like to talk to us about today, for example, we can add that sort of experience into there. I'll show you that in once we get down to that point. So as you can see, we've sort of been building as we go here, and the next one would be open field. So quite self-explanatory. What we want to do is, if the question is not listed, if we're trying to say FAQs, for example, then we can add in the open field, and that will let them tell us exactly what their query is about. And then the final one in this case is calendar. Now we can link specifically to Gmail or Outlook calendars, but we can also just present them with a blank calendar where they can say what is the preferred time to be contacted. So those are really good use cases if you're trying to book appointments and things like that. So I think that's a good place to have a quick pause, because I think we've got a question or two here to come in. So Helen, if you're ready with them.
Yes, absolutely. So it was actually a question about the single choice, and I think this would be useful to show is kind of when you've got the options up already, like, is there a way to reorder it or just show that kind of function would be good?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's definitely something that we would look at when we're doing those optimization calls. So whether they're sort of monthly or quarterly, we would go through and, see which options people are clicking on. And you'll notice that each option has a little bin, so you can delete it, and it has an up and down. So we can reshuffle those to see which one works best. Now, what we would find with testing is that we would always put the strongest ones at the top, especially on like sort of home pages whenever people first land, and then maybe on other pages like blogs, for example, the stronger call session could go at the bottom because of the nature of that traffic. But they can just be shuffled up and down, and you will find that definitely will have an impact based on who's coming to the site.
And Gavin, just on that, you mentioned not wanting to give users too many options because it might cause a bit of paralysis or unsure which choice they want is most suitable for them. Is there a best practice in your mind if you're dealing with, say, products or service pages? Is there a best practice for, like, what's the maximum number of options you might want to show in a single choice bot? And does that change if there's a multiple choice bot in play?
Well, I think for the multiple choice, it is slightly different because we're letting them choose as many as they would like. So it's slightly different in that case. But for the single choice, I mean, and then Helen maybe speaks this as well with her experience in the onboarding. But once you get to 6, it becomes, once you see it on the screen, it becomes quite. It's hard to pick them out, maybe unless we were adding in emojis and maybe adding in bits of bold text and things like that. The idea behind the single choice node is that we want to make them really like buttons. So we want to make them as actionable as possible. So even if people don't read everything that we've typed here, we want to really just catch their eye and make sure that they're clicking on the thing that they want to do. And if they just see that block of buttons, for example, they might not be able to quickly identify what they have. And in that case, the drop down is great. As I say, like probably 6 is where I would sort of cut it off at.
Just a quick add to that, and I think that's probably quite sensible, somewhere between like 3 and 6. But you know what? The best way is to hit and this is something we haven't shown you yet, but using the preview button. So actually just seeing how it displays on the screen, and just use your instinct. Sometimes you might need to display extra options because it just makes sense in that case. But as you can see here, those 4 options also kind of organize themselves really nicely on the screen, so it looks easy to find them and select them. So You've used emojis here, which just makes it even easier to identify what the action is on that button. So if you're not sure, hit the preview button and see what it looks like.
Yeah, good show. And I mean, we do have the best practices, but I suppose every business is different, and your visitors will react in different ways. And we have ways we can run A/B tests and things like that. But we can go through those, throughout those optimization calls that we have. Moving on to the other types of nodes, we're going to skip the making conclusion ones for today. They're more advanced features like calculators and logic rulers to try and push people down different paths depending on what they've asked. But we will be covering those in future data. The next one I wanted to focus on is the send to URL, because you'll presumably be using this one quite a lot. Now, there is one already in this builder, so I'm just going to slide down to here. So it's basically a single choice node with the function of the button is actually a hyperlink. So the reason we have it in this case is that we don't want to create a button that then goes to another node and then you have to click that. So it's basically just trying to make it more a better UX experience for people. So what we would do in this case is we'd say, like, all done, our experts will be in touch. In the meantime, why don't you check out how we've helped other businesses? And in that case, we just go down. You'll see that we've added in the same options. So we can say, go to success stories. We can say send to URL. So it's just a toggle to make this button basically a hyperlink. And then from there, we say, where do you want them to go? Do you want them to be in a new tab, or do you want to open it in the current tab? Now, I'll sort of try and weave in the tips as we go. A good tip that we always do, and we always recommend is, because this is sending them to a new tab, as soon as they close this tab, if we add an extra point here, it'll load that automatically. So we can sort of create the illusion of more personalization and saying, welcome back. So in that case, we might want to say, welcome back. Did you find that useful? That sort of thing. Excuse my panicked typing there. In that case, is we can, once they come back to the page, we can say, did you find that useful? And we can say, yeah, yes, I'm ready to speak to someone now. Or actually, I need a wee bit more information first. And so it's a good way just to keep the engagement going and to try and find a wee bit more out about how they found the information that they went to. So that's like a little tip you can add in, if you're using the send to URL nodes. And then finally, in terms of the nodes themselves, we've got the forms. So I want to spend a bit of time on this, because the whole ethos behind how we build the chats is to make them more conversational. You can put a form block in to ask for sort of name and email. I've got a couple of examples here. So we've got each one of these is its own individual question. So you can ask for email, phone, name, company name, location, etc. But you can also build a specific form, and I'll just highlight this one for now. And so from here, you can add those fields in, and you can make the form. You can add in extra questions as you can, but we want to try and stay away from those sort of long forms. Again, three is a good number for here, 3 to 5 if a push. But the idea would be to split those up and ask for those questions separately. So in this case, we're asking for name, email, company name. You can make them required or not required, as needed. You can also add in placeholders if you wanted to change the name, or if you wanted to ask a question that we didn't have as a default. So for example, if we want to ask for job title, we could use the message option, click on show options, and under placeholder, we could ask for job title. Now, this is already pre-built. So what I could do is, if for example, we want to add a question in after this, that's not been listed here, and again, this is sort of help with the tips. You can grab whole chunks and sections of the bots and move them around as needed, or delete them if you need it. So if you just get your mouse and select those two, that'll highlight those, and you can drag these out of the way, create yourself a bit of space. And then if you click on this and you say, well, actually, I want to ask phone now, because they've given us their name and their email. And then we want to say, something like, sometimes this is better discussed over the phone. So we want to keep it light and conversational. And then so then we can just reconnect that. So what we've done there is really we've just added in an extra question. So we've got the main detail, which is the name, company name, and the email, and then we're sort of chancing to ask for the phone as well. I mean, not all businesses need the phone for the lead, but it's a good thing to have. So that's definitely something we can look at adding in. adding into there. We can also add ask for attachments if you wanted people to send in any documents or images. And just sort of on that highlighting, selecting, you can delete them one by one by clicking on the little bin, or you can grab whole sections of it there, and you can delete that. And we do have sort of hotkeys at the top, so if you wanted to get that back, you could use Control Z, and that would bring that all back. We've also got the bot versions at the top, so every time you save this bot, it'll create a new version of it, and then you can always sort of reload that to go back. So maybe you've changed something drastically and you want to go back to that, or you've made a mistake and you've saved it and you want to go back as well. So that's another option for there. You'll also notice that we've got the find and replace. So this bot isn't too big, but what you'll find is in bigger bots, if you're trying to find like a specific word or a node, and you're trying to change something, maybe you've changed the name of one of your product lines to something slightly different. If you click on find and replace, you can then just search for, if I search for demo, for example, it'll show me every node that contains the word demo. And if I want to click on that, so say we wanted to change demo to demonstration, because we found that people found demo was a bit, it wasn't really having the desired effect. Maybe they wanted a more sort of professional term for that, or maybe they just wanted to change it to try and test it. So if we clicked on that, it'll sort of jump us straight to there and show us exactly where it's at. And then we can click on that. We can go to where it says demo, and then we can change it. Or if we want to change them all en masse, we can replace the whole, every mention of demo with demonstration. And that'll give us the option to replace them sort of one by one, or replace all. Like, this is a real-time saver. It's also great for just for searching for words, especially if it is a larger bot. I mean, this one isn't too big, but it's great to see that in this case. So the other thing that we wanted to cover would be the visual flow. So again, the idea of if bots are a bit big, or maybe you haven't built this bot and you're just in to have a look at it to maybe review the content. If you click on visual flow, and you can click the individual pathways themselves, because it'll show you exactly what way it's going. Because you'll notice that this one has once it's sort of double back, because we don't necessarily need to keep creating the same pathway. We would just push someone back down to the book a demo path, for example. And so this is a really great way of seeing like where the conversation is going. Great. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the settings now, unless there is any specific questions around the builder or how to make any of those changes or edits.
No, I think you can carry on to the settings. Excellent.
So we'll look at the settings of the Inpage bot, and then we'll try and spend a wee bit of time on the on the visual one as well, because it's slightly different. So the settings themselves for the Inpage, your first thing you'll see is you want to give it a name and you want to give it an icon. Now, we would always suggest using a real human's face here, because the idea is that we're trying to create a connection between the brand and the visitor, and we're trying to be able to leverage that emotional connection. So we'd always suggest putting someone's face there. If you don't want to use someone's face from the business, you can always use an AI generated one, but we would definitely suggest that. You can also then create sort of lead notification emails. So if you wanted to send that to sales team who maybe don't have access to the platform because they're logged into like 8 other different things and they don't want to learn something else, we can send those leads directly to them. And then style wise, so what we were looking at before was like how the bot is built and how it works. This is how it then looks and appears on the site. So you'll notice that this one is called Leadoo Demo. This is a theme. We can save multiple themes per platform, and we can go through and change these buttons to decide what they would look like, and so they can match our brand guidelines. Now from here we can update an existing theme that we're on, or create a brand new one. Interesting, if you do update a selected one, it will then update all the current live ones that have that there, and if there are bots live, it will flash up to tell you that. So that's a good way of updating multiple bots across the board if you're having changes to your brand colors, for example. That's a really good way of doing that. So that's really the Inpage bot. The chatbot is exactly the same as this. The only difference is we have live chat. We have a live chat node within that, but we do have a webinar coming up next month to focus solely on live chat. So we'll spend the time in going through that then. What I'd like to do now is quickly just jump over to visual bot. But before I do, I'm going to show you my favorite time-saving tip. So as I showed you that you can copy whole sections of bots. So let's imagine that we had an Inpage bot on a product page, and it just maybe wasn't getting the engagement that we wanted. And we thought, well, let's try a visual bot for this, because the nature of our products, they're much more visually appealing. We can use pictures of them in action. We can use screenshots of the product, for example. So what I can do is I can just select the whole bot, copy that, and then I already have this tab open. So if we go to the visual bot builder and we click build new bot, you'll see that you can either load from a template, and there's lots of ones in here you can experiment with, or you can go build from scratch, and then you can just paste that whole bot in. So like we literally just saved about an hour's work there just by adding that bot into that into that style. And before I jump into the styles of the visual bot, I think we have a question there, so I'm happy to jump into that.
Yeah, so the question was, so you've shown us really easily how we can create a different style of bot using the same logic from another one. Mm-hmm. But is there a way that you can show us how to duplicate bots? So say, often what I find when I'm building kind of almost like a set of templates for our customers in onboarding, but we want to make it as quickly as possible for them to create new ones. Mm-hmm. So could you show us how that can be done as well?
Yeah, of course, that's a great tip, because as you said, you'll build a set amount of bots for clients, but there's no limit to the amount that they can build themselves. And if we go back to the listing of the bots themselves, so I've just made a folder for bot building basics for the purposes of this. But what you'll be able to do is under the actions option here, you can duplicate this bot. And what that'll do is it'll just create a new version of it. And then, so you don't have to recreate the bot itself. So if you were, a really good example is the product pages, right? Because they're generally not going to be too different throughout. It's the content within the bot that's going to change. The structure is probably not going to change. It's going to be things like, book a demo, share some success stories. I have a question about how this would help me. Like they're generally going to be the same. It's the content that would be different. So you just duplicate the whole structure, and then you can come into the bot. And then that would be where we could use the find and replace tool to say, like, any mention of this type of product, move it to this or change it to this. Or we could go through sort of manually, double click on those and change as is required. So that's a really good one. And again, like saves loads of time. Saves loads of time. So good question. Okay. So on the visual bot. So this one is more visually engaging. Obviously, the clues in the name, it's a visual bot. We're designed to put images and logos in it. So you'll notice that they're all the same nodes available, with the exception of range selector. So this is for things like, do you agree, strongly agree. We have a lot of clients using it for their own customer service and sort of feedback and surveys and things like that. So it's great for those. But the actual nodes themselves and building the bot is exactly the same. You still get the same functionality to add in the bot says nodes and things like that. Now, the main difference is if we zoom into this, you'll notice that you can add images to the whole question. You can also add in images for each individual option. So the idea that we're trying to make these more engaging. Now, obviously, there's a lot of debate whether my face would help make anything more engaging or not. I'll let you decide that. But we can add in images. We can add in icons. There's loads of free open source ones we can use, like flat icon. For icons, we can use pixels and Unsplash for open source images. So we can add those in to try and drive engagement. So if we're finding that the Inpage bot isn't having the desired impact, we can change it and add in images into here. As I say, you can also add an image to the whole bot itself. You'll also notice that there's a heading and a subheading section. So we can add in more text here and a wee bit more of explainer. But the idea behind the visual bots is that we want to make them as visually stunning as we can. So we want to reduce the amount of text and replace that with things like icons and images. And I suppose the main difference here is that there's a lot more to do in terms of customization. So if we go to style, you'll still see the preview pane in the middle, and you can flick between the different node types to see how your changes are being reflected. So if you wanted to change the frame, for example, you'll see that in real time change. So everything can be edited here. The background color, the frame around the options themselves, the form nodes. If we go over to layout, again, we can add in images into the bots themselves to make them somewhat more striking. But the best thing I would suggest for these is just get in and have a play around with the styles, map it up to your brand guidelines, and really just sort of just have a play around and see how that goes. And then just before we wrap up, I want to tell you about the preview. So we did mention earlier, we can preview how it looks within here, but if you have other people who need to sign off, who maybe don't have access to the platform, if you click on code, there is an option then to say, give me a preview hyperlink. And what that will do is it will create basically a landing page to host the bot. So if you're finding that maybe you have to get sign off from someone, some senior members of the team, but they don't have access to the platform, this is a great way to show them that, and it gives them the experience, the whole user experience that they would get from that. So that's really it for today in terms of the building, the building of the bots, the styles. Obviously, if you have any questions, we can cover those now. We've saved a little time for some Q&As. So if there's anything there you wanted to cover, please feel free. If not, we've got some useful links to share with you as well.
Yeah, so we had one question from Rob regarding translating to another language. So at the moment, we don't have any kind of automatic translation options. So manually translating is the way to do it at the moment. However, using the find and replace tool does really help. And we do actually have a bulk editor. So generally, it's something that we use as the CS team because you could go wild and change a lot of stuff. But if you are doing kind of translations on a larger scale or multiple bots, then we can walk you through how to use it so you can use that instead to make things a bit faster. So just ping me a message there if you want me to get in touch with you about it.
The one feature that is slightly different, because it isn't the preset bot path that we've been talking about today, is our new Leadoo AI feature, though, that Constantine did ask about. So because we leverage AI in real time, that if you have an AI node, the AI can answer the user in any question that in any language, that they ask their question in. So even if the AI node first appeared in English, for example, if I asked it a question in Spanish, it would auto-translate in real time and give the user an answer in Spanish. But that is specific to our AI nodes because they generate answers using AI, as the name suggests. That is a different feature than what we've been talking about today, but just wanted to say that is functionality that does exist in a newer feature for us now.
Great. Thanks. And I just wanted to show the language settings just while we're on that, because this won't convert the copy that you've put into the different language, but it will change the preset. So like the placeholders for the name, the email on those form nodes, it'll change those presets to be in the native language. So it'll change the name in those languages. So if you are going to build other bots, make sure that you change over to the language, and at least those will be there, so it'll sort of get you off to the right start. Okay.
I think that's all we had.
Excellent. Well, some good questions that we got in through there today. I hope everyone's enjoyed that. We'll send the slides round, but I wanted to just finish with we have been putting a lot more effort into our sort of our FAQs and our guides as well. So if you head over to YouTube, we've got a lot of help around editing the bots, changing the settings. We've also got upcoming events, as I said, within the website. So you can go to leadoo.com/events. And also, once you're in the platform, and if we have released sort of context-specific bots. So if you're in the builder itself and you click on tips and help here, if you haven't had enough of my voice already, you can find more of it within this option. So you can see like how to edit the bots, how to change those settings. So they're already plugged in there if you do get stuck. But of course, reach out to your account manager. That's what we're here for, to help. So if you do find yourself getting stuck or you want to ask a question, please don't spend too much time digging into here. Obviously, just reach out and we can help with that as well. But yeah, that's really it for today. Unless there's anyone else who wanted to ask any particular questions. Other than that, thanks for coming, and we'll hopefully see you on the next one.